And that ends our Star Wars news for right now. So let's go to our Clone Wars review of the latest episode, episode 8, Together Again. Let me pull this up real quick. So this is the last episode on the Ahsoka arc, as we see her teaming up with the Marquez sisters and going on an adventure. Um, so overall, it was a good episode. Not my favorite of the arc, but not my least favorite. Still, last episode was, I want to say, my favorite of the season so far. So it did have a lot to live up to, but it was a solid episode. Um, First, a quick dislike is that at the end of episode 7, Unfinished Business, it looked like Ahsoka, Trace, and Rafa were finally on the same page and they had put all their bickering aside. This episode starts right back then with them arguing and disagreeing why they were captured, who decided to dump the spies, and all that stuff. So I thought we were past that, but that takes about 2 or 3 minutes and we're done with it. And they start to kind of plan their escape from the Pike's prison. Another kind of critique, not of this episode, but in Star Wars in general. This is when you know you're too invested in Star Wars, or you start focusing on things like this. All starships in Star Wars have radars. They have sonars or whatever. They can figure out when ships are coming out of hyperspace, sensors and things like that. But they never seem to know when a ship is just following them like 3 car lengths behind. We've seen this in the prequel with Obi-Wan kind of following Slave One after on the way to Geonosis after Django thinks that he's blowed him up on that asteroid field. No, Slave One goes about 15 seconds later, not even like 10 seconds. Jedi TIE Fighter with Obi-Wan starts following him. Then on the original trilogy, we have the reverse with the Millennium Falcon going away with the trash, and then Slave One following right behind. We got it in Rise of Skywalker with Ochi's ship when they're leaving Pasana, and then the Knights of Ren and the Night Buzzard following them very close by. And then here we see it with their ship, the Silver Angel, and then Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian ship following pretty close by. How can they? I know. Do they have a rear view mirror? They can just kind of look starship closer than it appears. Seems there should be a way to know that there's a ship following you so close behind, but again, that's very nitpicky. But again, this is Star Wars, it rhymes, so I'm good that it's might be a trope that they're kind of playing with. So yeah, whatever. All right, so at the end of the episode, they also didn't notice that big ass Mandalorian ship just landing on their hangar, 10 feet away from where they were speaking. But again, those were the only kind of critiques, not really dislike. Again, it was a pretty solid episode. So expect out of if you wanted Jedi action, Jedi powers, a little bit more movement, I think this episode would have been a good one for you guys if you didn't like the first couple ones in this arc. So thoughts this arc served to show us Ahsoka's kind of state of mind and decision making during conflicts after having left the Jedi Order. Is she going to forget all of her Jedi teachings and values and follow more kind of the path of Rafa and not really trusting anyone or caring about others? Or is she gonna fall more towards Trace's side and see the best in people and others, no matter the situation, which is the way that Ahsoka usually carries herself. So don't just dismiss this, oh, that's just Ahsoka with 2 new characters. It kind of plays into, hey, this is the first time we've kind of seen her after she left the Jedi Order. And she's still trying to kind of find where she fits now. She's still conflicted by the Jedi betrayal, and this becomes more evident, especially when the Marquez sisters keep bringing up all the Jedi failings around them. And Ahsoka wanted to kind of correct them, but at the same time thinking, no, they might be right in what they're saying. I've experienced some of this firsthand. So again, we get to see her kind of mental state at that point. In this episode, we have convincing the Pikes to release Rafa and Trace, so for them to go get the spies that they drop off somewhere, and in exchange, Ahsoka will stay there as a kind of hostage, and if they don't return, she's gonna tell them where the Marquez's family live. But knowing that they have no family, knowing that Ahsoka knows they don't have any family, the Mortese sisters are not sure about Ahsoka's plan, but they do go along with a quick kind of foreshadowing of of Rafa kind of saying, I'll never forget this. And you know that's going to come back into play. Which, again, we know they're not just going to leave Ahsoka, they're going to come back and rescue her. But at least it was a surprise for me that it was Rafa Mortez and not Trace, the one that kind of originally decides, no, we got to go back and save her. I do like the reasoning behind it because she won't let her forget it, and she just wants to up one Ahsoka. So again, it kind of stays in line with her character, but also shows her growth, and it's not just the obvious reason it was Rafa just going to save her and Trace wanting to save her, and Rafa kind of, no, we're done with that Jedi. Let's just go on with our life. I'm good. It was the other way around. But of course, before they can do this, they have on some spice a pretty fun sequence of the Mortez sisters kind of encountering some Ben Quadrinero looking type aliens. I don't know the name of them. Well, just some weird, fun looking smooch face aliens, kind of like Ben Quadrinero from the Phantom Menace, that pod racing sequence. Um, and also, one of the funniest things to me is seeing Trandoshans working a 9 to 5 job, just seeing them wearing regular clothes, even with the hard hat, trying to stay out of trouble and not get hurt. It's always fun to see aliens, Star Wars aliens, in those regular kind of human clothes. So we do have that action sequence there. Mortesis are just flat out killed that alien. They started hitting everyone with pipes, so don't sleep on them. They'll get you. So there's after that happens, there's a cat and mouse game between Ahsoka and the Pikes back in Obadiah, but in this sequence, she finds out that Maul is back and he's in the spice game now, which answers one of my questions from last episode, which why are the Pikes so concerned about this delivery of spice? Can they just kill the three of them, get another shipment, just get on with it? But here we find out they're working for Maul. If Maul doesn't get the delivery of spice, he's gonna send the Crimson Dawn after them. Love to get that mention of Crimson Dawn again. Make Solo 2 happen, even if it's this part of it. Go on. So yeah, we get our mention of Crimson Dawn, which is always great. I know there's some questions now about why Crimson Dawn and not the Shadow Collective. Again, we're gonna start a new arc, 4 new episodes, so we'll see if they bring this up. How do holograms work? I have that question, because you have Maul talking to the Pikes, and somehow he sees or thinks he sees something moving. Of course, it's Ahsoka kind of sneaking in, listening to the conversation. But so Maul has his own hologram device for the Pikes to see. And I'm guessing they have something for Maul to see them, but he's able to see the whole environment. Unless they have a camera in the back and just kind of, I don't know. I don't know how holograms work. If you guys know, put in the comments, tweet at me, put in the comments so we get some comments. Tell me, don't be dumb. This is how holograms work. Probably Star Wars. Don't overthink it. Or maybe he just censors. So we have that little game between Maul and Ahsoka coming back. Um, as expected, Ahsoka had to reveal to the Maul that she was a Jedi, and again, it causes some rift between them, some conflict at first. But Trace and Rafa kind of get out of it pretty quickly, and at the end, assure her that she does behave like they think that Jedi should behave. So that's kind of a notch on Ahsoka's belt, that even if she's not a Jedi, an official Jedi of the Jedi Order, she still follows the Jedi teachings of the light. Um, so this episode ends, like I mentioned, with Bo-Katan, um, Ursa Rain, and the other mysterious Mandalorian going to the Coruscant underground, landing again somehow right next to them on that platform and no one noticing. And then kind of, hey, Maul's back, we have a common enemy, we have to deal with this, come help us. Trace and Rafa kind of give Ahsoka their blessings, kind of, hey, you helped us, now they need help, so go ahead, this is what you're supposed to do. And they live together, and it's going to take us straight to the Siege of Mandalore, which hopefully not hopefully, we know, it's going to start next week with episode 9. So overall, a good episode. a good arc that makes great use of 4 episodes to get us to know and get invested in the Martez sisters and in Ahsoka's new role as an ex-Jedi, but still following the path of the light side of the Force. So yeah, what do you guys think of not just this episode, but the last 4, this new Ahsoka arc? Has it kind of lived up to your expectations? We know this is the last season of the Clone Wars. It's a short season, only 12 episodes. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the length. I really love the Clone Wars in general. This season has been pretty good. Um, but all good things must come to an end. I don't think that this series should keep going and going, because then you get closer and closer to Revenge of the Sith. So eventually these characters have to kind of finish their story, but we also know that they kind of go on their own arc, and we've gotten some stories out of it already. All right, so yeah, go in the comments, tell me what you guys like about this arc, this episode, and the Clone Wars in general. Okay, Clone Wars out of the way, and by that I mean this Clone Wars review. Let's go to